Hello, I'm Caitlin Stoss, and this is my case study presentation on student transgressions for ALTC 803. There's a couple reasons I picked this case study in particular. First of all, I felt like out of the three topics being covered, I have substantial amount of training on the other two, so this challenged me to research a little deeper. Secondly, I feel like as an elementary school teacher myself, that elementary school educators tend to be discluded from LGBTQ education and resources, even though we very much so see LGBTQ students come through our buildings, and I have personal experiences myself. And finally, as a member of the LGBTQ community myself, I felt like this was a good opportunity to break down some barriers and give you some helpful information. So the story in our case study is about a student named Keith, and Keith comes to school with a blonde wig and asks everyone to refer to him as K. Brianna. This day in particular, he gets bullied, and it distracts one of his classes so badly that the teacher sends him to the office to get them calmed down. Ultimately, he's sent home because he refuses to take off his wig. At home, his mom takes away his Xbox and phone as punishment. In a few days, Keith comes back to school and he denies everything. He acts like it was all a joke and asks everyone not to take it seriously. Next, a few days later, he arrives to school with pink nail polish. Again, he gets sent home because it causes an uproar in one of his classes. So we are found in a meeting at the school with the counselor and a few of the teachers talking about what they might want to do about the situation. Now, there's a couple negative responses from Mr. G. He thinks that he's just Keith is attention seeking, that it isn't fair to dedicate more attention to him, and that overall Keith is making his job harder. His solution is that they should discourage outrageous expressions and just put a stop to it. Mrs. T thinks that they're not the right school and it isn't normal. So she had a kinder approach, but ultimately said, let's transfer him to another school and they can deal with him there. The positive responses came from Miss R, the counselor, and Miss D, who is a younger teacher from New York. Miss R acknowledges that the behaviors indicate underlined issues that need to be addressed. She fears the ultimate consequences of the student dropping out, being suicidal, the various things that happen to LGBTQ students. The solution she recommends is that they should protect Keith, and it is their duty to do so. Miss D brings to the attention that what is the lesson that we're teaching our students if we do not support Keith in this endeavor? What message does that send to other students who might be in a similar situation as he is? Because there are definitely other students who are having similar experiences. It's part of growing up. And finally, they should respect Kay's choices. So her solution is to figure out how to best support Keith through this experience. Solution. With every word we utter, with every action we take, we know our kids are watching us. We are their most important role models. Michelle Obama. There's a few reasons in particular why they shouldn't send Kay to a different school. First of all is that sense of abandonment that they will feel. 29% of LGBTQ youth have experienced homelessness, been kicked out, or run away. That student may also feel discarded. 40% of LGBTQ respondents to the Trevor Project national survey of 2021, so the most recent one, 40% of them considered attempting suicide in the past 12 months during COVID time, with more than half of the transgender and non-binary youth having seriously considered suicide. More than half. Finally, better your school. Transgender and non-binary youth who reported having pronouns respected by all or most people in their lives attempted suicide at half the rate of those that did not have their pronouns respected. That is such a simple thing that we can do. Use the correct pronouns and help them to feel seen. And that cuts their suicide rate in half. That is easy. So my recommended solution is a multi-step process here, but first they need to consult LGBTQ resources and how to handle these situations. There are many that I will introduce at the end of this presentation. Secondly, they need to have a meeting with mom. Mom seems to be concerned, but not angry. So something important to remember with our LGBTQ students is to not out them to their grown-ups at home. We do not know how that information will be accepted and whether that will result in physical, mental, emotional abuse at home because of the news. Third, they need to form a plan with the teachers, with that information from mom, and figure out how they're going to address the issues at school and how to improve the environment. They need to implement that plan. And finally, they need to provide professional development for building employees. This is crucial. This is nothing new, but we should be aware. The internet has opened up a world of vocabulary and knowledge for our students to use to express the things that they're experiencing and the things that they are feeling. We need to be up to date with that information. So here is a little LGBTQ 101 that I included for you. It's not everything, but it will cover the things we talked about today. Knowing that we can be loved exactly as we are gives us all the best opportunity for growing into the healthiest of people. Mr. Rogers. First of all, let's break down the acronym. L is for lesbian, G for gay, B for bisexual, T for transgender, and Q for queer or questioning. If you are having any confusion of what these are, Google them real fast, super easy to understand. But today we are focusing on transgender. So transgender refers to anyone who does not identify with the sex that they were assigned at birth. So they may be born male, but they identify as female, or vice versa. Non-binary also falls under this T, and that is anybody on the gender spectrum who doesn't fit male or female. They might use the common pronouns of they, them, and theirs. Speaking of those, that is the singular form of they. This is not a new concept. It's been in the English language forever, and it's super easy to use. Let me know if you need any extra help, but here are some examples. They went to the pool with me yesterday. Hey, can I go with them to get their backpack? That party of theirs was awesome. Easy peasy, you're educators, you can do it. Here's some vocabulary for you. Words are, in my not-so-humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. Albus Dumbledore. This is a very thorough graphic that you can pause and zoom in on, but it gives an overall look at the difference between gender expression and gender identity, and the difference between sexual attraction and the sex you were assigned at birth. So you can be assigned male, female, or intersexed. Your expression is the way that you dress, the way that you behave, whether that is more masculine or feminine, and that is a spectrum. Gender is a spectrum, like I said. Now, when we use the term non-binary to describe someone, this is based off of the concept of the gender binary. And this is a social system that constructs gender according to two discrete and opposite categories, male or female. So this is things like making girls' clothes pink and boys' clothes blue, that kind of stuff. And we actually see our kids express their gender between the ages of 2 and 4. So to say that an elementary school student doesn't know what they are isn't fair, because they have lived their life experiencing in their life in their body, and you have not. So the gender spectrum is an understanding of gender as encompassing a wide range of identities and expressions. So not just male or female, you can be many a variety in between. Here are some vocabulary words that could be helpful to you. Today we have been mostly talking about social transitioning, which includes things such as changing your name, your pronouns, your hairstyle, or your clothing. Here is the legal information. As far as federal protections go, Title IX protects LGBTQ students. Schools that are receiving federal funding are required to treat transgender students according to their gender identity, including access to restrooms and locker rooms, using the right names and pronouns, and letting them dress in accordance with their gender. There are other things that are stated that fall under this, but these are the three that primarily involved our case study. Title IX was invoked in 1972, and since then, courts have recognized that Title IX's prohibition on sex discrimination encompasses protections against discrimination and harassment on the basis of failure to conform to sex stereotypes and gender identity. So, wearing a skirt if you are male, or wearing a binder if you are female. As far as anti-trans state laws go, Title IX does override the state laws that conflict with it. Schools that refuse to follow Title IX can face some serious consequences from the federal government from the Department of Education. Their Department Office for Civil Rights will investigate complaints by students and parents. They can sue the school or the district, and they can ultimately deny federal funding. As far as state protections in Kansas go, this is the saddest part of the presentation, there are currently no explicit, comprehensive, statewide, non-discrimination protections for gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender people in Kansas, and that is a travesty. Here's a little timeline of some highlights of LGBTQ rights. So first, the governor, Kathleen Sebelius, signs an executive order in 2007 prohibiting discrimination. Then I included something noteworthy from Hutchinson because that's where I'm at. I will let you pause this and look on through it if you are interested. Here is the list of cities that have signed a protection from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Feel free to pause and check if your city is there. Sadly, mine is not. How can we help as educators? Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Dr. Seuss. Questions to consider. What will help transgender, non-binary students and all students feel safe at your school? Do you need professional development advice to understand gender transitions and develop specific steps that your school can take? There's a couple other questions here. Feel free to pause and check those out. I'm running low on time. Here are some helpful tips. In your school. Have resources available for adults to help them understand transgender and non-binary children. Educators should support students on their gender journey, even if they do not have a affirming family. School can be a supportive, affirming place for children to be themselves. You should identify a safe person on the staff who can check in with any of these students to make sure that they are disclosing if they are being bullied or harassed. Avoid gendered situations. This is so easy. Instead of calling boys and girls and lining them up as such, use last names, use colors on their clothing, use common interests, mix it up. In school, it is the adult's responsibility to help other students understand transition and gender. That duty is not on that student. Here are some strategies for developing a gender-affirming school, but if you look at my resources, there are multiple guides that will help you in implementing these in your school. So feel free to pause here and take a look. It talks about some professional development, talking to your students, and also sharing diverse books and information with your students. Here are those training resources. Each of these companies provides resources for educators of all levels and involvement. Here are my references. Thank you so much for going on this transgender journey with me today. I hope you learned something new. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions that I didn't have time to answer. Look forward to learning from you all. Thank you.